Right, okie dokie. So, You Only Live Twice. Sorry about the delay. I wanted to get going on the next batch, but I suddenly felt ill, and I am a little bit ill right now. Actually, like I've got a little bit of a runny nose. I've got the sniffles. But anyway, yes, You Only Live Twice. Let's talk about this film. So yeah, I love this film. I think this is great. This is a good James Bond film. It might not be as good as Goldfinger, but objectively, it's probably not as good as Goldfinger, but I think it's one of my favourites. It's my favourite Sean Connery. It actually has a special place in I think in my heart, because actually I think I saw this film before I saw Goldfinger, and it's I think it's one of those like early childhood memories. It left an impression on me. Not having really watched many of the other James Bond films. I think at the time I probably saw GoldenEye, because that was the, like, at that time when I was young, like that was the bee's knees, that film. And of course the video game as well. But like this one just has a special place in my heart. The music, the song, I think is one of the best ones. And actually I like listening to it with just the instruments, like the instrumental version of it. But like, yeah, I kind of prefer it without the singing and the lyrics. And I don't know, like it's just, it sends me to my happy place, that song. Yeah. I put my headphones on and then I just listen to it and it's like, yeah, I'm home. But no, I haven't really spoken about, like, in the last 4 videos, I haven't mentioned John Barry. And yeah, like John Barry did pretty much all of the James Bond scores. And I think this is my favourite one. Cutting ahead, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is, the next one after this. That score is brilliant. That's great. But I love this one. I love this one. This one's good. Another reason why this film has a very special place in my heart is actually, like, I remember my dad talking to me about, I think when he showed me the film, I remember my dad talking to me about his dad, my granddad. He actually, like, my granddad actually worked on some of these movies in Pinewood Studios, as like a sort of like a technician, sort of, he would help out, be like a member of the crew, that sort of thing. And and my dad has a lot of stories about him, about my granddad, who I never met, by the way, which is quite sad. Yeah, never got to meet my granddad, but yeah, he seemed like a bit of a character. But yeah, my granddad actually went to Japan with the crew on this film, and he obviously helped out on this. But yeah, I'm not saying this to try and sound like I'm important and I'm like, hey, yeah, my granddad. If you know what I mean. It wasn't like he was the director or whatever, or I'm not saying like he was best mates with Sean Connery or whatever, and it's like, but he probably did hang out with Sean Connery, like Sean Connery, I think back in those days, he was an up and coming actor, wasn't a big star. So he probably, like, I think he used to hang out with the crew and play with the crew and, play like pool and snooker and football and stuff like that, and play cards or whatever, or chess or whatever, like, because those were different times. They were different times, more humble. People were not so fake, you know what I mean? Like, so Sean Connery probably liked to hang out with the crew and be chummy with the crew. But yeah, like this has always been a special film for me for that reason, because I know my granddad worked on that, and so that's kind of like quite nice. And as I say, it's quite sad because I never met my granddad. But yeah, there's I could go on about that, but I also just love this film because it's the most, I would say, James Bond film with starring Sean Connery out of all of them. Like, it's got it all. In terms of stuff, like when I say stuff, I mean, what's in it? And I feel like it outdoes all the previous James Bond films in terms of like gadgets. He gets this funny little helicopter thing, and it's called Little Nelly, and he flies it around and he shoots helicopters with it, and then he does deliver a pretty terrible line after that action scene. Like, that action scene is quite good. But then he's just like, yes, Little Nelly was very good. She shot the helicopters like that, and he's wearing a silly hat as well. This was actually the point, I think, when Sean Connery wanted to like abandon this franchise. He wanted to like leave, And I can't blame him, really, because they make him say all this ridiculous stuff and wear all these ridiculous outfits. And it maybe gets a bit repetitive as well, because as I said in my From Russia with Love review, if you go back and watch that, Sean Connery said that that was his favourite one. And I think he said that that's the one that, we got it. And it, after that, it was just sort of like repetitive. So it's sort of like, no wonder he wanted to leave. But anyway, I love this film because of the whole Japan setting. You've got ninjas in this film, right? And then of course as well, the whole opening of this film, you've got that spaceship that eats the other spaceship. That's iconic, and the music is great in that scene. And obviously as well, this film, if you look at the Austin Powers films again, this is the most Austin Powers-y James Bond movie, if you know what I mean. And obviously because, yes, Blofeld is in this film, and Blofeld looks like this. He looks like Dr. Evil. He's got the scar, he's got the bald head, he's got the cap. We in previous films we've seen Blofeld like he's just this guy, he's just hands stroking a cat. This is the first time we actually get to see him. We actually get to see his face. And I remember as a kid thinking, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, he looks quite sinister and quite scary. But then I watched Austin Powers, and I now just find it funny. Donald Pleasance is good and everything. I like him as an actor. He was in the Halloween films and Great Escape and Escape from New York. It has been ruined because of Austin Powers. But I love this film. Okay, I don't care, even though it is jammy and yeah, they try to dress him up like a Japanese person. Sean Connery. Again, it all goes back to I don't want to do this anymore. You're making me do all this stupid crap. You're making me dress up like a Japanese person unconvincingly. And actually as well, one thing I hate about this film is because they set up this Bond girl and this Japanese Bond girl, and she's great and everything, and you really like her and stuff, and then they kill her off before the third act, and then they swap her with a different Japanese girl, and it's like, what are you doing, movie? Yeah. So apparently it was written by Roald Dahl, but you wouldn't think that, but hey, there you go. He did the script. And I do love the scene. I love the scene where James Bond is running away from the bad guys and he's shooting some of the bad guys. And then it cuts to then a sort of a big sort of helicopter view shot of James Bond, of Sean Connery running across a building, and fighting all these other dudes, fighting all these henchmen. That's a good bit. I like that bit. And also, I'll talk about this later on, but Charles Gray is in this film, who comes back again as Blofeld in a later film, in Diamonds Are Forever. But he's in this for a little bit, and he gets stabbed in the back. And it's that confused me when I first saw Diamonds Are Forever. Why is he back? He got killed and he's back. What's going on? What is going on? What else can I say about this film? Yeah. This could have been Sean Connery's last outing as James Bond, and obviously I can't blame him. But I think it's the most fun James Bond film. I love the ending with the ninjas attacking the base, and they're coming down from the ceiling, and they're fighting all the bad guys, and there's big shoot 'em ups and everything like that. That's all really cool. There's a good henchman fight as well, where a guy gets eaten by piranhas. Yeah, that was cool. And overall, for me, this is just an entertaining film. It's still a fun movie, and it has a special place in my heart. It's probably my favourite Sean Connery film. I love it. So I won't talk about this film anymore. I think I'm finished talking about this film. All I'm going to say is that I love this film. I'm completely biased, okay, because my granddad worked on it, So shut up. Oh yeah, and he fights another henchman as well in this film, and that's apparently The Rock's dad, or not The Rock's dad, or granddad, or uncle, or whatever. Anyway, the guy he fights, he's related to The Rock, I believe. So he's a Samoan, trying to look like a Japanese person. But also he has a cool sidekick as well in this film. He's cool. I like him. Yeah, I like this film. I could go on for days, but I will just say before I finish, now we kind of go into On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is when the franchise, right? Because at this point we've had 5 consistent movies you know, with Sean Connery. This is the franchise. This is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be Sean Connery. He's James Bond. He goes on missions. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a formula and they stick to it, blah, blah, blah. But now we kind of get into a sort of a weird era of James Bond where Sean Connery is out. Now they've got to get a new guy in, and it's all a bit sort of chaotic. But we will talk about that in the next episode on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where I will have a lot to say about that, actually. Positive and negative things to say. So anyway, stay tuned for that. How long have I been? 16 minutes, bloody hell. Yeah, I've been talking for like 16 minutes, so I should stop doing this. But anyway, yeah, final thing, I love this film. I love all the Japanese stuff, the ninja stuff, the samurai stuff. I like all the space stuff. I like seeing Blofeld, even though he's Dr. Evil. I love it. It's my go-to watch for Sean Connery James Bond films. So yes. And it's kind of like the end of Sean Connery. Obviously On Her Majesty's Secret Service was in the 60s as well, but this is the end of the 60s era, Sean Connery era for James Bond. And it's a bit sad, really. Anyway, yes, bye. I'm going to go now. Bye. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. See ya. Goodbye.